Welcome to the Guide to AAIC series. These guides are meant to help you put your best foot forward with your AAIC submission and also help optimize your AAIC experience. In this webinar, we will be speaking about podium presentations at AAIC. Looking at the various session types of AAIC, there will be over 750 different podium presentations spanning all aspects of dementia science at AAIC. Individual presentation durations vary depending on the session type. For lightning presentation rounds, those will be 4 minutes. For developing topic sessions, those will be 7 minutes. For FRS and perspectives, anywhere from 10 to 15, depending on the number of speakers. And similarly, it will be 10 to 15 minutes for the clinical toolbox sessions. In-person presenters will deliver their presentation live if they are in person. And remote presenters are asked to upload their pre-recorded presentations 2 weeks before AAIC. Please check your individual submission, the individual abstract submission platform for details about your presentation. Looking at the various presentation links across the FRS and perspective sessions, the length of time is up to the discretion of the chairs, and the chairs will really help to ensure that all speakers remain on time to allow for a robust Q&A session. Remote presentations, like I previously mentioned, are pre-recorded with a live Q&A. So if you are remote, you will record the presentation in advance and participate in a live Q&A discussion. We recommend that all Q&A discussions are saved until after all presentations are complete. This is to help facilitate discussion between presenters, to allow submission of questions from the virtual audience, and to ensure the session remains on time. Before you start thinking about your presentation, it's important to take a step back and think about a good presentation that you've seen at a conference. What made that presentation good? What qualities did it have that made it stay in your memory, both in terms of the content and in terms of the delivery, both verbal and visual? Which one of those qualities do you want to have in your talk? What skills do you want to develop? This is really your opportunity to make this presentation great. But at the same time, think about presentations that weren't so good. What qualities held it back? What made it memorable for the wrong reasons? And really begin to think, what do you want to avoid when giving your presentation? So when we're thinking about going about creating the content for the presentation, there are 3 categories to really think about. Making sure it is an understandable presentation. How can you make this presentation understandable to your audience through content and delivery? When you're thinking about the content, make sure you provide all necessary details and really think about reviewing your terminology and the technical jargon you may be putting into your presentation. Also think about the delivery. Verbally, make sure that try and ensure that you're not rushing. So make sure if you only have 4 minutes, what information can you reasonably share in 4 minutes? If you have 10 minutes, you can really bring that out a bit more. And also think visually. Think about font size, think about what you're putting on the slide, think about where people may be sitting in the audience watching your presentation. You also want to ensure that it is an engaging presentation. You want to attract and maintain the audience's attention. Think about what content is necessary to include that will make it engaging and what is unnecessary. What do you not need to share with the audience at that time? You find your work interesting, and you need to tell your audience why it is interesting, why you're doing this work, and why it's so exciting. And also think about this with your delivery of how to make your audience really engage with your presentation. Definitely try and allow for enthusiasm and really speak with confidence in your own voice. You don't need to be overly confident. You don't need to be overly enthusiastic, but really be true to yourself and know that you know the content that you are presenting. And there are tips that you can practice. You can practice this presentation to ensure that it is engaging in your delivery of your presentation. You also want to make sure it's applicable and has an impact upon the audience. So, one way to think about this is changing the way that your audience thinks or works. You can really do this by providing a take-home message with a sentence or two on what you found and why it matters, or it could be a call to action if that's applicable. No one gets every presentation right, but really you have the opportunity to share your research with this audience. And so these are some things to begin thinking about as you're planning out your content. Some other things to be considering is, as I already mentioned, consider the audience and really plan out that content. Practice the delivery of your presentation, whether that's practicing it to your research lab or your family or other people around you. Practice the delivery or even into a mirror. And promote your session. Let people know that you're presenting a podium presentation at AAIC and let them know so they're able to attend. These are things to consider is really thinking about the audience of your presentation. Remembering that these presentations are going to a hybrid audience. So there's going to be an in-person audience as well as a global virtual audience. There are people in various regions, professions, career stages, and focuses all throughout the audience, and even potentially some research participants in the room as well. And then you can look at the various scientific topics that your presentation would fall into. Some research, some sessions may have a combination of these groups, and others may be really specialized and focused on only one particular topic. When we're thinking again about the audience, think about the conference. Everyone attending is interested in Alzheimer's and dementia research. So you don't need to spend a lot of time setting the scene on the bigger picture of dementia. Within the Alzheimer's and dementia field, it's fairly broad. So when you're thinking about the session that you're presenting in, look at the title of the session and the other presentations and frame your presentation accordingly. For your talk, it may be physical activity and tau measures. And your presentation might be in a session just on tau PET, where your presentation may be the only one on physical activity. Or it's in a session on physical activity and yours is the only one on tau PET. So depending on which session it is, you may want to frame it slightly different with a different emphasis on background, the depth of the methods, and really a different framing of the key messages. So it's good to look at your session in order and also make sure that you are aligning with the research interests of the people likely in the room. And don't be afraid to reach out to the other presenters in advance, introduce yourself, ask them what background information they will give, so you're not overlapping too closely with the other presentations, but instead complementing the other presentations in the room. And finally, on the actual presentation, people may only be interested in your presentation. The title of your presentation may be self-selecting as to maybe what language you include or not include. If the title of your presentation is very specialized, it may attract more people in your field rather than a wider audience. If your title is more in lay terms, it may bring a broader audience. So this is something to consider when you're thinking about the title of your presentation, is that's really something that people will be searching for to be looking at. And across all of these, definitely highlight 2 to 3 key messages for the audience. This is something to consider, especially in the Q&A section. Next, looking at planning of your content, think about 1 minute per slide, knowing that some presentations will be longer and some will be shorter. But these are the things to consider adding: a title slide, disclosure slide, and if you do not have anything to disclose, please just list nothing to disclose. A background slide on what is known or why is it important, the research gap, what is not known, and really what are you addressing, the methods of what you did, the results, what you found and what you did not find, discussion as to what the results mean, and a summary slide really highlighting those key messages. So looking through the content of your presentation, as an accredited continuing education provider, the Alzheimer's Association must comply with strict guidelines related to potential conflicts of interest and commercial support. We require that we are required to present balanced, evidence-based, to the extent as possible, unbiased information that does not promote the product or interest of any company. This information is available on the abstract submission platform. You are able to, as I already mentioned, please list any disclosures that you have. Some other things to consider is please use generic names of any therapeutic agents or drugs. Do not incorporate corporate logos on the slide, but university logos are acceptable. And list only the presenting author on the title slide. The co-authors can definitely be acknowledged in subsequent slides. These are some things to consider when creating your content, especially if it is a session or a topic that would be appropriate for CME credits. There are things to consider when thinking about the delivery of your presentation. Again, we've already discussed some practicing your presentation. You can practice your presentation alone with colleagues, friends, or family. One other opportunity you could have is looking at the PowerPoint Presenter Coach. This is a way to get a report and really understand your pacing of your presentation. Are you being overly wordy, or are you simply reading the text on your slide? This is a way to practice your presentation as well. When you are giving the presentation, if you're giving it virtually, definitely think about your surroundings, avoid any interruptions, close any other programs on your computer, and silence all devices. Test your technology and ensure that you can hear the recording clearly and your webcam does not obscure any key text or figures. For the live Q&A, be sure to have a backup ready if you have any technical issues. When you're on camera, when you're thinking about your background, be sure that it is clean and simple. Elevate the camera to eye level and try and face the light if that is an option. Dress the part and definitely look into the camera and be aware of your body language. When you're presenting on remote, speak slowly and take pauses and really enjoy this presentation opportunity. And finally, want to think about promoting your session at AAIC. Getting people to attend your session is one way to really help get your research out into the community. And the virtual opportunity allows for a greater number of attendees to see your sessions and see your presentation. So some things that you can do is post it on social media using the hashtag, share it as a newsletter item or blog post at your university if that is something that you do. Email it to a specific person. If you want to reach a specific mentor or someone else, be sure to email it to them. Ask others to help promote your session and get the excitement around your research out. And team up with others to attend presentations and posters and invite them to view yours. Knowing that AAIC has a hybrid format, even if you're encouraging people to attend in person, but maybe they're going to a different session, they can watch yours back on demand as well. Finally, just want to say thank you for watching this and best of luck with your podium presentation at AAIC.